They're taking from you to repay him, taking from her to repay her, and it has to fall down somewhere. I was present at a Kante Palat transaction. The bank manager, the money lender, and the victim sit together. Now you are the victim. You are a farmer. Gosavi Pawar, no relation of the more illustrious Pawar, the worst agriculture minister the world has ever seen, because he only plays cricket. Gosavi Pawar asked for 65,000. He asked for 65,000 rupees to cultivate his 7 acres, and he wanted the money. The bank manager said, "Of course, I'll give you your 65,000 rupees, Gosavi, but you repay the 50,000 that's outstanding." Nobody can repay because nobody in the place is in a condition to repay. So Gosavi borrows 50,000 rupees from the money lender, hands it over to the bank manager, who gives him 65,000 rupees. You know what is the rate of interest on the 50,000 rupees he took for this transaction that takes 2.5 minutes? The money lender gets 52,500. 2,500 rupees. I don't know how to compress it and calculate it as a percentage of interest. I have no idea. Okay, so I wasn't present at Gosavi's transaction, but I've seen several such. I couldn't be present at Gosavi's transaction because by the time I landed up, he had committed suicide. So he is left with some 12,500 rupees on which to cultivate 7 acres. Well, the cultivation cost of, say, an acre of cotton from 2,500 rupees in 1991, that's about $50 in 1991, is now about $300 in $217 in 2007, 2008. So the cultivation costs have gone up. The companies have made a killing, and Gosavi Pawar is dead. The costs are simply incredible. There are thousands of such stories, but I'll conclude on this. How did we react to it as media? By using every subterfuge, every fraud to pretend that it wasn't so important. Not because journalists didn't want to cover it. If this story is alive, it's because very young, very, very hardworking, rural-based journalists have kept it alive. There are fantastic journalists in the Indian countryside who have kept this story alive. But how did the managements of the newspapers react to it? Let me tell you how. Paris Hilton in 10 days got more front page space than all the farm suicides of 2004 to 2007. Number one. Number two, the classic case for me was 2006, when the suicides were at their height, the highest number, 17,000 plus, in Vidarbha, cotton farmers primarily, cash crop farmers. 1 hour away is Mumbai, the same city of Mumbai that you're all watching on television. What was going on in Mumbai? Lakme India Fashion Week. How many journalists covering the agrarian crisis from outside Vidarbha, in Vidarbha at that time for 1 week? 6. It should actually have been 4, but let's be generous because 2 of them missed their flight, therefore they had to stay behind another 2 days and they were there for a week. 6 journalists were covering the Vidarbha agrarian crisis for a week. Lakme India Fashion Week had, at the same time, 512 accredited journalists covering it for a whole week, apart from about 100 others who covered it on daily pass systems. You can get all those numbers from their website. Right. I mean, that was the sense of proportion between how the media covered it. Now at the same time, when the banks are declaring unrepayable debts, writing off debts in billions of rupees for the top industrialists, the governments of 4 states started jailing farmers in their mid-70s for non-payment of debt of 20,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees. NPAs of scheduled commercial banks is 105,000 crores at that time, out of which 80% were from the richest people in the country and their institutions. Nobody ever spent a day in a police station, let alone in a prison for that. Just like the bosses of Union Carbide. Whole classes have come up in the countryside as a result. New classes. The old money lender, the money lender of Bengali literature is pretty much on a low ebb. You know something about the old type money lender? He's committing suicide. clients have defaulted, migrated, run away, or committed suicide. They can never recover the money. The small money lender is a guy who puts 100 capital out into the market. The much bigger money lenders put 10%, 15%. But the small guy, he's got his 90% out in the market. If it doesn't come back, he's dead. And he's also a farmer. New classes of money lenders have come. Who are they? The guys who sell seed, the guys who sell pesticide, the guys who, the input dealers. Your next generation of MLAs and MPs from the countryside will include significant numbers of these people. So the face of credit has changed, the face of health has changed, the privatization of everything has transformed. There is a gigantic descent into health, and there's us covering it. I'm not going into the numbers of coverage because it's so pathetic, it's statistically negligible. But the fundamental feature of our time, is the growing disconnect between mass media on the one hand and mass reality on the other. In the 10 years that the Indian farmer needed us most, we sold products where we should have told stories. Where skepticism was crucial, we showed psychophancy. Where we needed journalism at its best, we produced stenography at its worst. We got the best bites, but we told the worst stories. You know, the great American journalist and writer Ben Begdickian, author of The Media Monopoly, once said that the minimum duty of good journalism was to ring the bell, was to ring the alarm bell, to signal the weaknesses in society. In that duty, we failed ourselves, we failed our profession, we failed our public, and indeed, we failed Indian democracy at the time of its greatest agrarian crisis. Thank you.
I'm an alumni of Emory University. I qualified for food stamps and I qualified for Medicaid. I'm also an organizer for Farm Aid. I want to give you our information. We're trying to promote family farm in 44 states. We're trying to promote the safety and the well-being of rural areas so that family farmers don't go out of business. You mentioned Oklahoma and Minnesota briefly, and you mentioned the crisis that developed in the 1980s in the Midwest. We have an office in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Yeah, you know, let me just interrupt you for a moment. I mean, I would love to have the information, but if, you know, we'll get to the question first and then I'll take the information from you. Because we've got several questions waiting there.
Okay, I'll let somebody else speak and then I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
My question is, in your talk tonight, you talked about the problems, but I'm wondering about the resistance. If you could speak a little bit about the mass movements that also don't get any coverage here in the United States.
Look, one of the astonishing things about the Indian people, and especially the rural Indian people, is that there is a very high degree of participation in democratic elections. The last election in India, 2004, was fought and lost on farm and in state after state,